Yeah, welcome to those who are new to Malaysian Research Insider session, and to those of you who have joined us previously, welcome back. I'm Ayappa. I'm doing a PhD in molecular medicine at University Sciences Malaysia, and I'll be your host for today's session. Well, this science chat is co-organized by MBIOS, 100 Scientists of Malaysia, along with our media partner, Science Media Center Malaysia. Um, so without further ado, let's welcome our scientist for today, Shazeli Zain, pursuing his PhD in phytochemistry at University Putra Malaysia. So I will allow him to introduce himself further and what he's working on. All right, over to you, Shazeli.
All right, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Shazeli. I'm a third year PhD student in University Putra Malaysia. Uh, so basically, I'll be chatting a little bit about my PhD work, which is I call it as waste to wealth, which I'm transforming the low value agricultural waste into high quality products. So before I proceed, I would like to tell a little bit about myself. Um, By the way, thank you so much, Embuyers, for inviting me to talk about my research work, a little bit about my research work. And I think Embuyers is a good platform for us, especially for us as young scientists. Like me, myself, personally, I want to encourage youngsters, especially high school achievers or high school secondary school students to persuade them to persuade them to learn about science specifically. So a little bit about myself. I did my high schools in MRSM Penang, which is a boarding school in Kedah, which is a science stream. And then I was offered for scholarship to do A levels and bachelor's degree in. I did my A levels in College Yayasan UEM, which is in Lembah Beringin. And then after that, I pursued my first degree in pharmaceutical chemistry, which was offered in International Medical University in Kuala Lumpur. And after that, I registered myself as a master student at first in 2017, and then in 2000 last year in 2019, I was offered by my supervisor for conversions into PhD by continuing my PhD work. Continuing my master work into PhD work. So we add up a few objectives to fulfill the requirements as PhD students. And for my PhD, I'm working on oil palm leaf, which is agricultural waste generated from oil palm plantation in Malaysia. And then I use this oil palm leaf. Basically, I'm looking for bioactive compounds in oil palm leaf, which based on our previous study, we found out there's flavonoids, group of flavonoids in oil palm leaf, which have a potential value. And then in my work, our case studies, we're looking for potential application in wound healing treatment. And then recently in 2020, I applied for Young Scientist Network. And then I'm grateful, I was selected as a finalist in YSN Chrysalis Awards. In this Chrysalis Award, we learned a lot in terms of preparations to become a young scientist as a young scientist in Malaysia especially. And last year, yeah, this one I participate in a few exhibitions and conferences, and then this one invention I was awarded as best invention, and I received gold medal award. Yeah. Okay. This is my campus right now, which is University Putra Malaysia, Serdang campus. Yeah. The one that I studied currently in Institute Bioscience, the bottom picture, and the one in the middle is my research group. The one in the center is my supervisor, Prof. Kozira, and then the rest is her PhD students and postdoc. And then, yeah, I think almost all of them already done with their PhD. Only me and my friends here still working on finishing the project. So This picture basically summarizes my PhD work. Basically, I start uh, by discovering the potential compounds in oil palm leaf, and then I start to optimize the extraction method, and then we try to find a method, a simple method to extract the bioactive compounds in this oil palm leaf by developing our own methods. And then after we enrich the compounds in this oil palm leaf, uh, I try to formulate this into a product, and then we try to apply this product into, we try to evaluate this product for wound healing treatments by using zebrafish models. Yes. Okay. Why we choose oil palm leaf? What's the relationship between Malaysia and oil palm leaf plantations? Basically, for those who doesn't know, that Malaysia is actually the second largest oil palm producer in the world after Indonesia. So our concern is we produce seeing a lot of oil palm, you know, Malaysia gaining a lot of, I mean, billions of revenues. It brings a lot of revenues to our country, which is oil palm itself. But at the same time, though we're producing a lot of oil palm, actually we are producing uh, a lot of biomass as well. This including oil palm leaf. So basically, to make a more sustainable oil palm plantation in Malaysia, basically we need to tackle these biomass problems. So since from our prior studies, we found out that this oil palm leaf contain huge of flavonoids, and also I did some market survey that the flavonoids actually is a global demand. And then by 2024 is it can bring about 5 billion ringgit to Malaysia if we exploit the flavonoids in oil palm plantations. Because the most market currently, the largest current market actually contributed by North America and also Europe. Usually they use flavonoids for supplements because of their lifestyle. And we're looking, and Africa and South America is like using flavonoid. Uh, I mean, you're looking at Africa and South America, there is a growing market. So actually, I think it is, how to say, it's a waste if Malaysia don't take this opportunity to, you know, to explore the demand, the global demand in terms of flavonoids. So, so the scientific evidence about flavonoids in oil palm leaf actually from our research group as well, we found out in 2012, there's one paper published from our research group that we found out this oil palm leaf contain a lot of flavonoids, especially flavonoid C glycosides, and specifically apigenin and luteolin derivative. So in 2019 or 2020, we published another articles from these research findings. We try to develop a method how to like enrich these flavonoids, and then we come up with a method. And then this early of this year, we published another papers that to support our develop enriched extracts, and then we tested on the wound healing properties. This work is on in vitro studies. Okay, so basically we managed to file a patent about this work in 2019. And basically, at first, we don't want to limit this enriched extract as a for wound healing treatment only. And then because this enriched extract, we found out there's more properties other than wound healing properties. For example, they're having antioxidants, they're having antimicrobials, and they're also having even anti-diabetics. So actually, we come out by using our method. Actually, we come out these enriched extracts that can be used, that potentially be used in semi-purified chemicals industries, and as well as instead of using one single compounds, actually managed to come up with enriched extracts that contain a few group of compound, which is flavonoids, and in enriched form. And then usually this enriched extract can be used, potentially be used in cosmeceutical and personal care products, and as well as in nutraceutical and pharmaceutical products. So why we focus on wound healing treatments for my studies? Why we focus on wound healing treatments? Basically, um, um, there's about 8.2 million people had wounds with or without infections, and the treatment cost estimate for acute and chronic wounds range for about $28.1 billion until about $100 billion. So especially this statistics, or this 8.5 million people actually highly contributed by developing countries. People live in developing countries because they don't really have access to the treatments, especially for chronic wounds, especially when they have a diabetic wounds. So we're thinking, since this all pump plantation, actually when you look at the statistic, the global statistic, actually all pump plantation actually coming from highly contributed by developing countries, especially from Southeast Asian countries. Like I said, it's Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Brunei, something like that. And then these countries actually contribute to the high wound infections. I mean, the people who suffer from wound infections. So we're thinking, since we have the resources, and then we have, which we can get at zero cost actually, which is a waste. And then by using our method, we develop our own method to enrich these flavonoids, and then we use for wound healing treatments. When I think, if you look at as a positive perspective, in 10 years in future, for example, if we really develop this, utilize this underutilized agriculture, I think I can imagine Malaysia or Indonesia, if they utilize this method, actually the wound healing, the wound treatments in the future will become very low cost, but still a lot of work to do. Okay, what's happened with our current method for flavonoid enrichment? Actually, this is the usual methods that we usually practice in our labs. Usually, we use liquid extraction method, column pack with silica gel, and solid phase extraction method. And then what we found out by using this method, of course, it's expensive and use a lot of solvent, which is not good for our environment, and then it's consumed a lot of times. So usually this not really preferable, because since for our method, because we use agriculture waste, which we got at zero cost, and then if we use this method, which is you use a lot of money to do this, and then it's not practical, because we use at zero cost, and then we use the method that for production we use very high, and then I think it will affect our wound care products at the end, in terms of cost. This is one of the factors. So we come up with, in my PhD, we try to develop a method how to enrich this compound, which is a flavonoids, by using integrated process. And then usually this process or these methods or this component are very common in industries. So basically, we try to incorporate ultrasonic technology for extraction enhancements, and then we try do some chemical reactions for target specificity, and then we try to do the last component is the rapid absorption. This rapid absorption, I think, is the most important one in our method, because we try to come out with a method for entrapment. So what I use is, instead of silica gel, which usually used by most of the chemists for isolations, we try to use resin, microporous resin, because this microporous resin very selective. It can only select certain compounds, which is depends on the properties of the microprocessing. So by using this integrated process, we managed to come up with two type of products, which is flavonoids, total flavonoids, which is contain all of flavonoids in palm leaf, and another one we try to come up with a targeted flavonoid, which is flavonoid C glycosides, which actually we remove all the flavonoid C glycosides in the palm leaf. Okay, many people asking me, how do you actually evaluate the efficiency of the methods that we produce? I mean, the enriched products that we produce. For my PhD work, I deal a lot with liquid chromatography. We use LC-MS and also LC-UV PDA to profile our compounds. And then this work we recently published in Molecules. As you can see here, we do some comparison between crude extract and enriched extract, which is the fraction. The enriched extract means we already use our technology, and then we can see there's a difference between crude and fraction. And when you look at the fraction, we managed to remove all the non-flavonoids. We only focus on the flavonoids, that's why we call it enriched flavonoids, because it's contain all these type of flavonoids. Okay. Okay, this is a bit of science here. How do I identify the compounds in my extracts? This one of the compounds that I managed to identify, which is type of luteolin derivative. So this is the molecular weight. The MZ609 is the molecular weight of these compounds. So based on the fragmentation patterns, we managed to identify this compound. And the interesting thing about flavonoids, actually for fragmentations, we can identify based on their patterns. So from here, how do I identify these compounds? Basically, I see the removal of 90, the molecular weight of 90, and I mean, in the fragmentation ion it gives is 519. When you compare with the original one is 609, minus 519 is the removing of 90. 90 is as a part of glucose, part of fragmentation ions of sugar moiety. And then there's another fragmentation ion we managed to identify, which is 489, which is a removal of 120 molecular weight of ions, fragment ions. And then 180 is the molecular weight of one sugar. So in LC-MS, if you get these ions, these molecular ions, 4 to 9, which indicates the removal of 180, which is the whole glycosidic bond. Okay, another one is 210 and then 240. Yeah. This one of the fragment, this is how I identify one of the compounds in my palm leaf. So another one, I just wonder, have you heard about NaDES? NaDES is actually, most of the articles that I read, they call it as a future solvent. So future solvent means maybe in 10 years, they replace our conventional organic solvent, which we usually use in our lab. Typically we use like ethanol, methanol, the chloroform, all those stuff, which is, and this NaDES, people call it as a future solvent. Maybe they will replace organic solvent in the future. So why we call it NaDES? NaDES is coming from the term is natural deep eutectic solvent. It's derivative from deep eutectic solvent or ionic liquids actually. Why we call it NaDES in chemistry, in natural product chemistry, because the compounds that we use to develop the solvent is actually derived from naturally occurring compounds. For example, this one is example to develop NaDES, we need two components, at least two components, which is we call it hydrogen bond acceptor and also hydrogen bond donor. This one actually to select the compounds, actually we're looking at their functional groups. So for example, this NaDES usually known for entrapments of or isolations of phenolics or flavonoids. Usually these phenolics or flavonoids contain a lot of hydroxy groups. So how do we trap these flavonoids or phenolics compounds? Usually we're looking at their functional groups. So how do we trap that? So the compounds that we select to produce the solvent, the NaDES, actually we're looking at the functional group of the compound. For example, choline chloride and also propanediol or butanediol. Both these two compounds have functional groups that can interact each other, and then when we produce a solvent, actually this solvent contains the functional groups that we want actually to trap the phenolics or flavonoids, I mean the compounds of interest. So the lamenten that we use is lights dissolve light, something like that. You know, polar attract polar, non-polar attract non-polar, something like that. So actually, in my work, I did incorporate some of these NaDES. Actually, we try over hundreds combinations actually, but none of them are work. I mean, not all of them are working. So we're still looking at their characterizations in terms of their mechanisms, how does it work, something like that. So for those who working on, you know, phenolics or flavonoids, I think this NaDES is a good investment and a good thing to discover, because for my own experience, I think these in the future they will be you know, it's a new solvent lah. I mean, I will support the current literatures that say it's a future solvent. But yeah, there's a lot of work to do on this. Okay, the difference between NaDES and the conventional solvent, actually, NaDES is more green. So like me, myself, I want to develop a more sustainable method. So for current work, we use the conventional organic solvents. So we're trying to replace this conventional organic solvent with the NaDES. If it's working, I think our method become more sustainable and more greener and more green. Okay, when it comes to the wound healing models, what we choose for my PhD work, actually I did on in vitro and also in vivo. So in vitro, we done on in vivo, on vitro, basically I showed just now the paper that we managed to publish on in vitro. So now we want to take a step further to try on in vivo models, I mean in vivo systems. So usually for in vivo, for wound healing, we always, when a lot of, we always come across with rats or mice, you know, usually people do wound healings on mice or rats or even rabbits, you know. It's a common models for wound healings. So for my PhD work, actually, my supervisor actually introduced this zebrafish work to me. They say like, why don't we develop a method, since our method, our energy extract, we develop based on, you know, our purpose to develop a simple and rapid and efficient method. So for in vivo studies, if you look at like mammalian models, for example, like rat or mice, it takes a lot. It's very high maintenance cost, and then so you know, it's like it's not how to say, we develop a simple method and very cheap method, and then suddenly for testing we use like quite a costly method. So I try to look at it as a positive perspective, even though it's a, how to say, it's a rare pathway, you know. So to develop a method is very, how to say, for me it's very challenging, especially for this zebrafish work. Because we're dealing with small animals, you know, small animals, so it's very hard. Actually, the work inspired by this paper, actually. I read my first paper I read about zebrafish. actually this paper is published in 2017. It's about they're applying silver nanoparticles on wound healing in zebrafish, adult zebrafish, and then the conclusion from this paper actually quite convincing. So I downloaded this paper and then gave to my supervisor to talk about this. And then funny thing about this is very coincidental. I mean, very coincidence. Um, uh, I proposed this method. I said I want to use this method for my work, and then she asked me, "Who's the author?" You know, because we want to validate the method. And she also asked me, I mean, the quota of this paper, is it like very convincing? You know, is it like it's a good journal or not, something like that. So I downloaded this paper and gave it to her, and then she said, "Oh, actually, she knows the corresponding author of this paper." And then she said she just come back from South Korea to visit the facilities in South Korea in these universities, and then she asked me to to approach this corresponding author by email. At first, I emailed the corresponding author, and then I'm very grateful that the corresponding author very supportive. And then she replied, it's like in one day, I don't need to wait very long. She said like, welcome, welcome to come to South Korea to his universities to do this this work. So my supervisor also was very supportive at that time, and uh, I prepared myself to do my zebrafish work in South Korea. So uh, yeah, because actually in our lab also we have zebrafish facilities, but the one that I'm proposing, usually in my lab we doing a lot on neurotoxicity and also toxicity, and also we see a lot on behavioral developments. So for my work it's a bit different. I mean, with the current work that usually my lab is doing, my other colleagues doing. So we need expertise, and also we need like a good facilities to do it. So I decided to do my research attachments in South Korea, which is in Chunam National Universities. So I went there in February. In February, like end of February, which is during the pandemic time, which at that time Malaysia still not that serious in COVID-19. But in South Korea in February, like already reached peak, And then when I arrived, like in town, in the road, everything's like a ghost town, because everyone's scared. Just stay at home. And then my supervisor, in my hosting supervisor, asking me like, you still dare to come in South Korea, because at this time, because at that time he need to go for conferences outside, but most of the countries doesn't allow Korean to go outside, because Korean at that time, like, suffer in pandemic COVID-19. So I'm like from Malaysia suddenly came to South Korea to do my work. So actually I said to him that I need to take a risk to finish my PhD work. And then yeah, okay, what I did actually, by referring to the method that I showed you just now, I mean the paper that I'm closely referring to, that method actually they use laser wounding for wound healing studies. But the problem with the laser wounding, actually it produce irregular wound on the zebrafish itself. So my first task in South Korea at the time, I need to develop a different method. How do we actually wounding the zebrafish? I mean, to get the uniform size. So we're proposing to use biopsy punch instead of using laser wounding. So we managed to use biopsy punch biopsy punch method, but at first we face a lot of, to develop a method, we need to, I mean, the method to be considered as a good method or a good model. Actually, when you, the death rate actually only contribute for 5%. And then at that time, at the beginning, actually, we managed to do the biopsy punch wounding on zebrafish, but at that time, the death rate that we have at that time is more than 5%. So, but the first months I was there actually to try to come out, try to optimize the method, how at the end to get like 5% method, 5% death rate. So the only then the method consider robust and also is I would say reliable. So yeah, I spent there almost like 4 months to develop a method, and then at the same time, um, we try to incorporate like this one. This picture shows is a normal wound, but I try to propose how do we I mean why don't we incorporate like diabetic? I mean, we want to produce like diabetic wounds on zebrafish. So basically, we try to develop another method. At first, we try to make it the zebrafish become diabetics. There's a few articles about how they try to make the zebrafish become diabetics. The articles that I read, some of them use injection, some of them use oral gavage method, some of them use even feeding methods. So like at first, the problem with the oral gavage and also the feeding methods actually uh, is very time consuming. To make it like the fish become diabetic for feeding, it take a lot of times. So at that time I have time constraints. So I proposed to my hosting supervisor that I want to do injection method by using injection methods. But at that time I didn't consider the the stress that we give to the fish. So actually I inject the fish to develop a diabetic models, and then after the fish become diabetic, and then we wound the fish as well. I mean at the end to make it like diabetic wound. So very challenging because at the end the fish became very stressful, and then when it became very stressful, actually it contribute to your results. So uh, the lesson that I learned, we need to come up with a method that the fish, how to reduce the stressness, the stress in the fish, because we already, for wound, this wound actually we use like kind of burn wounding, because we burn the bursting punch and then we punch on the zebrafish. So basically, can we consider it as like a chronic wounds? Yeah, I consider it as a chronic wounds. It's chronic in comparison with the acute wounds. So that means the fish already suffer a lot. So if in the future, I try to propose um, a method to develop diabetic models in wounded zebrafish, I think we need to propose something that non-invasive to the fish. So for this study, actually, I did some comparisons on unencapsulated and encapsulated my NaDES extract. And for this one, the picture show I tried to encapsulate my NaDES extract in nano emulsion system. And this one, we take a step further. We try, instead of using the single nano emulsion or single encapsulation, I try to develop double encapsulation, which is water in oil in water nano emulsion, which is I did double encapsulation. When you can see here the picture, the 4 compounds actually is inside, and then circled by oil, and then I encapsulate with another water phase. Why we use these double encapsulations? Because the technique that we use for zebrafish actually an immersion technique. So I need to make my drugs or my extract dissolve in water. So that's why I try to encapsulate it, do double encapsulation in water phase. So at the end of study also we is other than observe the wound closure, which is I took like on different times the wound closure on the fish on the wounded side, and then at the end we also collected some tissues to study about gene expression on the wound related genes, which is we tested on antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and also some growth factors. Okay, I think yeah, this is some of the pictures, the activities that I did during my PhD time. In this one exhibition 2019 and 2020 this year. So we participated in, we bring our technology to the exhibitions. In this picture, it's like Malaysian Technology Expo. We try to bring this technology to make it visible to the industrial career, especially of palm plantation industries. So that we are working on it. But for this work, actually, um, we done on the validation at a laboratory scales, but we still want to proceed with pilot scale, also like semi-pilot scales, but needs a lot of money. So if we can collaborate with the industries, especially of farm industries, so we can test in their facilities, so to see the efficiencies of these methods in the current facilities that they have. So some of the international conference and congress that I participated, actually I tried to communicate our development into the society. So we try to exchange ideas with the locals and also international experts. These some of the pictures that I managed to capture in South Korea early of this year. Yeah, the few pictures at the bottom, all the people I met during my attachments, they're very supportive. The pictures in the middle is Prof. Mahanama and also Prof. Kim. Actually, I work in their lab. One is in veterinary labs and also another one in biology department lab. So their facilities for zebrafish is very, very good. Actually, even advanced. This is very good. And then I met some Malaysians there, and then some lab mates there. They're very supportive. So for those people who wants to go to Korea to do some research attachment, I encourage them. I encourage you guys to go to these universities for, especially for zebrafish work. And yeah, these some pictures. Like currently we are participating in workshop series of workshop. This is like yeah, it's like I think 2020 style, the pictures, because all like virtual. Yeah, it's like actually like only all similar faces. When you notice all like similar faces, but when you look at carefully, there's one or two different faces, because one or two new faces actually from speakers and also from the moderator. Yeah, it's very fun. For those who in final year PhD program, I encourage you to apply for next year because they give a lot of let's say supports in terms of ideas, in terms of let's say your preparations to after your PhD work. I mean after your PhD studies. So actually, this program prepare you for your future career. I think some of the modules that they introduced to us is about the alternative pathway after PhD other than become a lecturer. So last time we had a workshop with PhD graduates. I mean, they graduated from overseas, and the PhD graduate. They're now working in consultancy agencies. Some of them working in even in industries. So another modules I think is very beneficial that I encourage people to apply for this is they have, if you are very passionate young scientist or even passionate scientist, if you're looking for you're looking for a good network, a good a good team that have the same mission as you, I think this program can bring you to these people. I think I'm glad for that. They're very supportive and very ambitious, and yeah, very good. I think it's the end. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks a lot, Shazeli, for that very insightful presentation on your research. Okay, so it's yeah. Can you explain about this genetic similarity between the zebrafish and humans?
Okay, thank you so much. Um, yes, it's true. It's a 70. I mean, it's approximately. I can't give like a fixed number, but uh, well, most paper reporter is have a 70% similarity with human. Why seven? There's actually one of the reason, the main reason why I choose zebrafish as my wound healing models, because when I do some literatures reviews, and I found out that for wound healing, actually zebrafish have the same mechanism as in human, because like if you know about wound healing mechanism, actually we have 4 stages in wound healings. At first, we start with inflammations, all the proliferation, migration, sudden maturation, scar formation, something like that. So all these stages have in zebrafish. That's why I feel like zebrafish is very suitable, other than rats and mice, to study about wound healing. So I
Mm.
think for my study for wound healing treatment, I think uh, uh, it fits the criteria for wound healing. Um, Another things about zebrafish, most of people, like in my labs, they use for neuro studies. If you study about like autism, you study about like some rare diseases. Actually, you can use zebrafish as an early model for you to, especially for those who keen in genetics and DNA replication, something like that. Usually people use zebrafish as early models to identify the cause of the diseases. These things I learned from my research attachment in South Korea, and my supervisor in South Korea, actually his expertise actually doing on knockout zebrafish. Basically, he tried to find the root cause of certain rare diseases, like Huntington disease, Siamese, the disease that related
Yeah,
to,
genetic
to
diseases.
DNA,
Yeah.
yeah, genetic diseases like that. Right? So I think, for wound healing, it's like another way to look at, as like another alternative models for wound healing studies other than vaccine.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So we have a question here by Xiao. So what are the other byproducts of palm oil production?
Okay. Actually, when you're talking about oil palm plantations, we other than oil palm plantation means we look at the whole oil palm tree. Actually, oil palm tree has the trunk and also have the leaf, and the leaf also have. I mean, it also have the front. Front mean, I mean the middle, the one at the middle that holding the leaf, all the leaf, and also we have fruits, and also we have after investing, I mean, after they're taking the oil, actually they're producing empty fruit bunches, which is like become a waste for the industries. And then
Mm-hmm.
why they actually use oil palm leaf compared with other byproducts, I mean, other than oil palm trunk, oil palm empty fruit bunches, oil palm kernel, something like that. Because in comparison with other biomasses, this oil palm leaf is still considered underutilized. So usually, even they utilize it, still consider low value, because usually for farmers, they use this palm leaf to feed their goats, to feed their cows. But still, for us, like when we're talking about commercial value, something that still a lot can be done in palm leaf. So since we know some of the biotic compounds in palm leaf, why don't we, exploit the palm leaf further to increase? And then one more thing about this enriched extract. Recently, to test this biotic compounds in a palm leaf, actually, I mean, to confirm, actually, I need to buy the commercial standards to compare with the, I mean, to confirm the compounds in a palm leaf, these compounds,
Oh,
So,
you're using gold standards. Gold standards.
uh, Yeah, I bought commercial standards, which is
Yeah.
already isolated, I mean at
Mm-hmm.
high purity. So actually, I bought for 20 milligrams is about 1,000 ringgit.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
expensive.
yeah,
Yeah.
expensive because you know I understand why it's expensive because the method that I used, the one that I mentioned earlier, is the
Yeah.
conventional method. So that's
Mm-hmm.
actually contribute to the cost, the high cost
Yeah.
of the
Because
production.
the tedious production, right? The tedious
Yeah.
production that it goes through here. Okay, yeah. So we have a question here by Jake. So he's asking, with the flavonoids you showed, orientin and phytexin, are they the most abundant flavonoids in oil palm extract? What are the other low abundance flavonoids in the extract that have other health benefits not related to wound healing?
Oh yeah, actually there's a lot of type. I mean, a lot of flavonoids in palm leaf,
Mm.
and the one that I'm looking for is apigenin and luteolin derivative.
Mm-hmm.
For those who have time later on, you can download. You can have a read I mean our research group papers that recently published. Actually, we managed to identify almost 23 types of flavonoids in palm leaf. Uh, and then four of them, these compounds is orientin, isoorientin, vitexin, isobitexins. Um, why we focus on this orientin, these four compounds because um, uh, other flavonoids that we managed to identify is a flavonoid O glycosides, and then the one that we interested to look at is a flavonoid C glycosides. So in comparison with a flavonoid O glycosides, is actually in comparison with other plants, flavonoid O glycosides, people manage to profile their activities or their properties quite abundantly, and then they have, I mean, well understood their properties. I mean, they have, you know, the biological properties. So the one that still in comparison with flavonoid O glycosides, we found out that flavonoid C glycosides uh, still have potential, and then I mean many people reported they have a good potential, but still limited. The information still limited, so we want to give more information on flavonoid C glycosides. And to answer that questions, other than these four flavonoids, actually we managed to identify some catechin groups, and we found that catechin, epicatechin, and also we have some phenolic acid groups, and most of them, other than these compounds, most of them are from a derivative of apigenin and also luteolin. Um, Another interesting about these flavonoids in palm leaf, actually they have a lot of isomers, which is they having the same parent compounds. The only make it different is their sugar attachment to the glycans of the flavonoids. That's actually changed the name and has changed the activities and changed the properties of the sugar compounds.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So yeah, it's like, because I'm thinking if this particular flavonoid actually promotes wound healing, then it might actually hinder with the current anti-angiogenic regimens that is present in the market or in the hospitals. So it's because what we are trying to do is stop the blood vessel formation, but this flavonoid will enhance the blood vessel formation. So it's not going. It's like it's going to zero out both of it. So that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Actually, it's possible. Like myself, before I chose the safe dose, I mean the
Mm-hmm.
correct dose for my wound healing treatment. Actually, I studied the toxicity in embryonic embryonic models. I mean
Mm-hmm.
embryonic zebrafish model and also in adult zebrafish model in terms of their toxicity of my compounds. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what I found out that my compound actually can behave can have both properties like anti proliferation and also proliferations. And then when I see it become toxic and it kill the cell, because I also study on cell based assays. What I discovered that certain concentration, actually my compound actually kill the cell. And then,
Okay.
yeah, a certain concentration, it kill the cell because you bear in mind that my compound that I testing is the enriched extract, which is it's not a single compound, it's not a single entity, it's the
Okay.
combination of a few compounds.
Yeah.
So, and somehow is already in enriched form. So, I mean, there's in you know in enriched form, there's a lot of the same compounds or different type of compounds in one extract. So I think there are synergistic effects or maybe anti-synergistic effect also that may contribute to the properties that we want to study. If you want to study anti-proliferations, I think still possible if using this extract. I mean, or using your own extract. But when we need to look at their concentration as well as their combinations of this extract. I mean, the prior studies about this extract, like for my case, like um, compounds, orientin, iso-orientin, vitaxin, and also isovitaxins. And then from previous studies, and also at the same time, also study antioxidants. So what I found out, these four compounds, either two of them, because these orientin and iso-orientin are considered one isomers, and then one type of isomers, and then vitaxin and so isovitaxin considered another type of isomers. So either one of them having a good antioxidant properties, and then another one have a lack of antioxidant properties. So when I combine these four compounds together in one extract, actually it is like contribute to high antioxidant properties. So yeah, so
Okay.
it's interesting to study like actually why it's happened, you know, something like that. What people say is the synergistic effects, and yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why we can see sometimes drugs they work in adjuvant to another,
Yeah,
especially in treatments. Yeah, so it depends on the drug synergistic effects. Yeah. Okay.
yeah. And
Um.
yeah,
Yeah.
one to add on, one more thing about this. Actually, people asking me why focus on enriched extract that have I mean at least four compound inside the enriched extract, and other than focus, you know, like already enriched and I further isolate this compound and test on the wound healing. Um, Actually, at the cell-based assay, I mean at the cell-based models, actually I did some comparison. I studied some comparison between the enriched extract and the crude extract, and also the individual compounds that present in my enriched extract. And then we found out that the enriched extract it show better cell migration or cell proliferation activities. Um, in comparison with a single compound, single entity. So that's why we proceed with the enriched extract.
Okay. Okay. I think it seems we don't really have much time, but we'll just get another two more questions. Okay.
Okay.
So Xiao here has a very curious question. She is asking,
Okay.
how many zebrafish have you sacrificed for your research work? Yeah.
You know, the funny thing about this, the first task that I came when I came to say any universities, Chinang
Yeah.
universities,
Yeah.
I need to bring my own fish. I need to
Oh,
bring my
wow.
own fish because um, because I think my supervisor already know that I gonna use a lot of fish, so I need to
Okay.
actually prepare at early. Basically, I breed early at the beginning, like my first month in South Korea, and then I breed and then I use their adult zebrafish. Towards the end of 4 months there, actually I managed to grow the new zebrafish. I mean, so that for another student to use. So to answer the question, how many? Uh,
Oh God, it must be a
wow,
lot.
there's a lot, like more
Yeah.
than I think 500 fish.
Oh my God. Okay.
Zebra fish.
I understand. I understand your concern because I myself do animal study and I've actually killed so
Yeah,
many mice as well.
I think if this one heard by ethics committee, I think they don't agree. You know.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oops. 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 No, we didn't say that.
Yeah.
Scratch that. Nobody heard that. Okay. Here's another a question by Peru. So she's asking, is NaDES a type of pH buffer?
Not exactly, because some kind of NaDES is actually a solvent, a solvent which you use to replace organic solvent that commonly practiced in industries or even in the lab. Usually, people to extract like a compound from plant or from other organisms. Actually, we use organic solvent. Like I said, like chloroform, hexane. You know, that depends on the polarity that you want. I mean, the compound of your interest. So, like this NaDES, it actually is a type of solvent which you develop your own in the lab by using compounds, the natural occurring compounds that are available. For example, in my studies, I use choline chloride, which is a compound, and I combine with a different type of compounds, for example, like maltose or glucose. And then when we combine together, and then uh, what we call it NaDES is like deep deuterated solvent. Means both of these compounds at beginning they have their own melting point. So when we combine them together and then subject to some heating or some treatment, and then actually they manage to reduce their melting point and produce a solvent. I mean yield as a solvent. So actually this solvent we use for extraction media for our compound of interest.
Ah, okay, okay, that's cool, that's cool. I mean, I'm not a phytochemist, so this is like all quite alien to me.
It's okay.
Yeah, but I get it's interesting for me to know as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, what's that? Sorry. Yeah, please continue.
Yeah, it's actually it's how to say, at the beginning it's a new thing, it's an alien for me as well, because most of the people that are referring to actually from engineering backgrounds, you know, all the address engineering, because the one that developed a method, actually most of them coming from engineering backgrounds, because the one that I'm developing a method, so I'm having a chemistry background. So it's a bit challenging at the beginning, but when you come into, when you read a lot of papers, actually you start to understand, like actually the one I recently across, that actually people who develop this one actually from chemical engineering background. So I think still makes sense, you know. Yeah, but they're dealing a lot of mathematical equations, something like that to develop. Yeah.
Right, okay. Yeah. Okay. I think we have time for just another two more questions. I think I just ask you these two more questions and then we wrap it up. Which part of the fish do you induce the wound? It's not in the chat actually. We have another question. Yeah. So which part of the fish do you induce the wound?
Actually, I think the picture I showed I mean the one models in the picture. Actually, we try to find what's they call it? I mean the term that they use it.
The dorsal side, is it? You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can share your screen to show where exactly the wound is.
Okay, I'll share.
Because it's quite interesting as to how you wound it, then later you have to like you treat it with the flavonoid. I'm wondering also, like, if they're in the water, how do you even treat it? So you treat the water, is it, with the flavonoid? Not sure about that.
Yeah, that's why I tailor-made my nano emulsion in terms of water-based nano emulsions, because I want to apply in water system, in water environment, because from our research team previously actually managed to compare between methods, and then first method they try is on direct application, which is the nano, the samples that they have, actually they apply directly onto the skin of zebrafish. So basically, when you euthanize the zebrafish, and then they apply the drugs on the zebrafish skin, and then leave it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, let it be absorbed, and then release to the recovery tank. So and then another method they did is on immersion technique, which is they dissolve the compounds of, I mean, your drugs in their water system, and then see the wound closure, I mean the wound contraction after a few days, something like that. I mean at the same time with other method I mentioned earlier. So they found out that immersion techniques more efficient than the direct applications. So that's why instead of I did on direct applications, I choose directly on immersion technique. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess we can wrap it up with one last question, which is, what are your aspirations after your PhD? What do you plan to do after PhD? Yeah.
Oh, my plan actually, it's a lot of plans. So, actually, I still want to develop my research skills, and then maybe I'm hoping for postdoctoral positions or fellowship somewhere. I don't know. Doesn't matter in Malaysia or abroad. So I'm looking for postdoctoral positions to develop my research skills more. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe you can plan to go back to Korea, then you can find some sarang hae there.
Yeah, if that's, I just found out from my from Malaysian friends in South Korea, the one that I met.
Yeah.
They say like Korean government's actually offering a lot of scholarships for international either international students or international or like postgraduate students that wants to do postgraduate studies in Korea, because actually I didn't know about this before. The one that
Okay.
I mean my friends that study in Korea, I mean, my Malaysian friends study in Korea, actually introduced these few scholarships that the Korean government actually open every year. But I think because of the publicity and also the exposure, not many people know about it. Yeah.
Wow, like that I also want to apply lah, so I can go there find Korean girl for
Yeah,
myself.
but actually, what I noticed, right,
Yeah.
actually it's very different in terms of research culture there. I mean, when I compare
Oh.
with Malaysia and also in South Korea, I mean, in general, uh, actually, uh, there, uh, my supervisor labs, right, it's like never close. Just imagine
Oh.
it's like works like 24 hours. I
So
mean,
people are going in and out 24 hours, 24/7.
yeah, the students there, like in that, I mean, even not the same person, but still like come, like the same, I mean, different person come, I mean, in the lab, always people in the lab, something like that. And then someone is
Wow.
like, the supervisor also like very passionate, and then very into research, and then he sometimes also come like every weekend to the lab. Yeah, I mean to either to sit down and observe his students doing work or either doing his own work. So ironically, like towards the end of my attachments there, in the building, actually one got, I mean, confirmed was positive, COVID-19. And
Oh
then
my
I
God.
was surprised. Yeah, I was surprised. Like it was the first time the whole building closed. Yeah,
Wow.
I'm like,
Okay.
wow, I think, but after 14 days, it start all over again. I mean, like, it just got like nothing happened before. Just like continue as always.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess when we go overseas, we get a culture shock when we look at the science people are doing there. It's like you compare it with our science here, it's kind of different. I mean, we don't want to say anything, kita tak nak kutuk-kutuk, but you know lah, it's different. We just say it's different. Yeah.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
still, how say, Malaysia still have I don't know,
Long way to go.
a long way, not long way to go, but as some of our area is
Yeah.
even better than other countries. But I say
Okay.
in terms of think I think both have pros and cons, because if you compare in Malaysia, when I talk with my friends and even my supervisors, they say like we want what I call work-life balance. You know, you come to the lab and then work 8 to 5 and then go back. And if you're a married man, you know, you have family man. If you're a married family man, you have family to take care of, and then you spend time with family, something like that. But it's when I talk with my friends in Korea, they said this different thing, because they said because the way they enjoy their life actually, when I think I noticed during the lunchtime or during the dinner time, actually they come together, you know, like eat together. Even I mean, even like maybe after 10 they go out for supper, I mean together, I mean they hit for bar or what, something like that. So that's the way their interpretations of work-life balance. After done their work, and then they go out and have fun. So tomorrow at 8 come, you know, on time, and then come to lab and continue their work, something like that. But yeah, it's different.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think both
That's
have
cool.
pro and cons. Yeah.
Yeah, we Malaysia lepak babe, lepak, relax.
Malaysia boleh, right?
Sure boleh. Okay, I guess well, thank you very much, Shazeli. I really enjoyed this session because it was so free and easy. So I actually really enjoyed this session, and I understood a lot about your research. And thanks so much for sharing with us your research. I also like to thank everyone who actually stayed and joined us today for this session. And next Saturday we'll be joined by Duncan. So he has been always on RI. He has joined almost every session. I think all the sessions, not almost every, all the sessions. And he'll be sharing with us on how he's looking for novel antibiotics from the nose. This is a very intriguing subject. I would really love to watch it. And so, yeah, for more updates regarding future Research Insider series, please like our Facebook page on MBIOS and also 100 Scientists of Malaysia. Okay, thank you everyone, and yeah, thank you very much, Shazeli. I love this session. All right, and see you guys next Saturday.